Yeah. All right. Hey, everyone.
We're just over here having fun.
We're over here having a good time. Hey, welcome to another episode of the Other Side of Addiction podcast. As you guys know, I'm your host, Al Richards, and I am here with my good friend, Bill Schuffenhaur. Bill, man, thank you so much for stepping in and being on the show. I mean, we've had you scheduled a few times, and your schedule's crazy, right? Things happen and stuff, and you've actually been on as a guest co-host a few times, which I really appreciate. It's always a pleasure having you on the show. And yeah, just some things opened up for the 20th, and I wanted to reach out to you. You was actually getting ready to head to California for a Jack Canfield event, which you just came back from, which looks awesome. I saw your pictures on Facebook. Looks like a great time.
It was phenomenal experience, man.
Yeah, I bet. I bet. So today, when Bill got here, I'm like, so what is it you want to talk about? Now, normally I have an idea with the guests because they send a bio and stuff in, and I know a lot about Bill already. And he's like, you know what? I just did a post earlier about accountability. And I had to agree with that. I think accountability is huge. And I've got some stuff somewhere during the show. I'll probably share a little bit of stuff. But why did you just come up with that so quickly?
You know, as I reflect, obviously just coming back from Jack Canfield thing and being, a supporting role for Jack and the hundreds of people that we helped out there. And when I reflect back on what was it that truly changed my life, we reflect way back, even like the Olympics, right?
Mm-hmm.
One of the first questions I was asked after the 2002 Olympics is like, who do you want to be more proud of you? Who do you want that person to be? And when I thought about it, I said, the person that I want to be most proud of me is me. Because at the end of the day, you can have the best coaches, you can have the best resources, you can have the best and worst of everything. But at the end of the day, it's 100% of choice on what we do with all those things that come across our board, our platform, or our life. And, when I started getting out of my situation with, alcoholism, addiction, victim mentality, and all that stuff, one of the lessons I learned from Jack Canfield was taking 100% accountability for your life. 100%. And for me, that was a very, very difficult pill to swallow at the time because I was still playing in that victim mentality, blaming everyone else for all the things that was going on in my life. And it took me, honestly, probably a good year and a half to really understand what that meant, to take 100% accountability. And, one of my companies called TMIC Global, we talked about today that it doesn't matter what's going on in life. You have the ability to create everything and anything you want in life when we take 100% accountability for everything in our life, right? And so, for me back then, obviously I was utilizing drugs and alcohol as an excuse to be in the dark space that I was and not showing up on a daily basis and not paying employees and not paying my bills and not being able to not doing anything. And in my head, I was saying, oh, I deserve this, or I should be here, or I should have this, and this should be, it should look this way. And it should
on yourself a lot, right?
Yeah. Shitting on myself left and right. And the reality is I didn't deserve any of that. Right. And I, you know me well enough. Like I look at where I'm at today and my life is so amazing, like so amazing. And you always have those thoughts like, okay, why did it take this long for me to get here? Yeah. And if you do take 100% accountability, you can look back and be like, oh, it's because you were doing this or you were doing that and you weren't being accountable to yourself first and foremost. And so, when it comes to alcoholism, addiction, victim mentality, the reality is, again, I don't care how great of a friend you are, and I don't care how great of a substance abuse program that there is or an AA that there is, at the end of the day, we still have to be accountable to ourselves to actually make it work. Yeah. Right. And when we're in that space, it's really, really difficult to be like, oh, I can fix myself. One of my really good friends and former business partners, Mark Peterson, he's a director of all the Spartan Agoge races worldwide. He says the best, and he's a super survivalist. So, okay. And he says the best rescue is self-rescue. And I was like, I had to think about that. And I was like, the best rescue is self-rescue, which just means like we have all the tools and resources around us to overcome what we're dealing with, but we're not taking accountability to actually take that next step in life to get to where we want to be or where we think we should be. Right. And I always have this saying that, you hear me talk a lot about my architecture. That's kind of how I frame like my life.
Mm-hmm.
And, it's either by default or design, but when you're building a new life of architecture, which people, places, and things and everything included behaviors, processes, we can't build a new one within the walls of the old one that didn't work. So if we're doing that, that means we're not taking accountability for where we want to go, where we want to be. So good example, right? If I'm an alcoholic and I'm trying to get, alcohol free and clean and sober, I can't do it. I can't build this new life of sobriety when I'm still hanging out with my friends and my family members and
Yeah.
drinking party.
Yeah.
Right. So then I'm not being accountable to my goals and what I'm telling everybody I say I'm going to do. Same thing in the attic world. And I had to watch this as a kid growing up all the time. My mom was like, oh, I want to get clean and I want to do this. Well, wait a minute. Like the same people, we're still hanging out with the same people and we're going over their house and they're coming over our house. Or if we didn't have a house, we're still hanging out on the streets with the same people. Right. And again, so we're not taking accountability. So, I think for one of the things that's really been a spark for me in my life is truly taking 100% accountability for everything that happens in my life, even if I feel like it's something that happened to me. And the key that I want people to understand when we talk about that is like, hey, Al called me a name. Well, I didn't make Al call me a name. So how can we take accountability for that? It's like, okay, well, wait a minute. Let's think from the outside in. Why did Al call me a name? Right? How was I acting? How was I showing up? What was the role I was playing in that situation that prompted Al for whatever reason to call me whatever it was, right? And when we do that, I could be like, oh, you know what? I was kind of being mouthy towards Al, or I was being offish towards Al, or whatever it may be, right? Mine for me, the hard pill for me to swallow back when I was first learning about this was the relationship with my first wife and my daughter. And I haven't seen my daughter in years and years and years.
Yeah.
And my wife somehow got away with taking her away, and the courts let her get away with it, even though it violated our divorce decree and everything. And I just sat there and thought, like, how am I supposed to take accountability for that? That's on her. I want to be a part of my daughter's life, right? So straight up victim mentality, blaming her for everything. And then when I learned how to take that accountability, I was like, okay, what would prompt her to act the way she's acting? And I was like, oh, I was drinking a lot, partying all the time. I had anger issues. I didn't have stability in my job or my relationships. And everything was just like up in the air. So from her point, she didn't see the safety and security for our daughter. And that's why she did what she did. Now, is that 100% true? It may or may not be, but I had an opportunity to look on the outside of my own self and be like, oh, these are some things that you could have possibly improved on that would have prevented that from happening, right?
And with you saying that, Bill, I just had a conversation with one of my good friends that I work with, right? His name's Kat. We were talking about this exact same thing like 2 or 3 weeks ago. He said, look at the message in the mirror.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And you look in the mirror and you see the message and stop and think, what is the lesson behind everything that's happened?
Yeah.
And when you do that, it really does start opening your eyes. Because, I'm going through a divorce right now, matter of fact, just filed today. And I've gone back and looked at everything that has happened in the past umpteen years with the addictions and all that stuff, and even my own past, right? And I've really had to stop and go, okay, what is my lesson behind this? What is it that I'm not seeing? Because there's something there.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, all these light bulbs start going up. And sometimes it's immediately, and other days it takes a couple of days.
Yeah.
However, I stay with it to go, okay, now I understand, right? And I really do believe. It's like I've been praying, right? I've been praying. What do I do? What do I do? What I want to make sure I'm making the right move. I'm making the right move. I've done so many things on my own. All I've done is effed up my life even more. I've handed it over to my higher power, who I call God, and say, okay, help me, right? Give me an answer, give me something, give me a sign. And it's happened. And all of a sudden I start realizing, going back, listening, and going, this needed to be done a long time ago. I was so busy getting caught up again with everything that was happening in my life. I'm not taking accountability for even the stuff that I was doing wrong and making it worse, right? Because I'm the one that's throwing in the towel.
Yeah.
Literally, it's me. I'm the one that's, I'll admit to it, I'm throwing in the towel. And I also want our listeners to know I've had a part of this as well, right? And I've done a lot of things wrong. And I've even admitted that to her, saying, look, I know this is what I did wrong. This is what I said wrong. I handled this the wrong way. And it helps me feel so much better about myself, knowing that I've been able to take that accountability.
Yeah.
And knowing where I want my life. Now, as far as, like my integrity means everything to me, because 14 years ago, you couldn't believe a damn thing would come out of my mouth. And I can lie, look right in your eyes and tell you a lie and make you believe it.
Well, wait,
But
how do
yet-
I know you're telling me?
Right now, because it's 14 years later, right? Hook me up.
Right.
And yeah, I was able to manipulate my way around different things. To not have to worry about that shit anymore.
Oh man.
Oh my gosh. It has taken so much weight off my shoulders. And another thing, talking about taking accountability and stop playing that victim game. I played the victim for the past 14 plus years. Why I lost my job. I lost my job because I failed a UA. Because every Friday and Saturday night for 8 years, I had snort cocaine and drink alcohol.
Right.
That was my release, right? I was blaming it on corporate America. Even when I started the podcast, I'm asking people to come on my show and be vulnerable. Open up your past, right? I'd share little teeny tidbits. It wasn't until Dave DeRocher got in my face and told me you would be more powerful telling your story instead of your wife's story. And I did this past January.
Yeah.
I opened up for the very, very first time. And Robin Sims, his assistant, said the whole time she was just watching all this stuff just fall off. And I could feel it.
Yeah. It's amazing what it feels like when you take the mask off.
Take the mask off, right? The accountability, right? And stop playing the victim, because everything that had happened in my life in the past 8 years was because of my wife's alcoholism. Well, guess what? I chose to stay in it. I chose to say certain things. I chose to act different ways. I chose to lose my temper.
Right.
Hey man, it's all on my shoulders.
Yeah.
Right.
And it's so powerful, relieving, godsend, whatever you want to call it, when you take that accountability and you start putting that process in place in your life. And like you said, she saw like all the chaos and the hurt and the pain and the anxiety just melting off, and I recall, I reflect back a lot, and I recall even years ago, not too long ago, because I mean my life has only truly gotten to where it is within the last 2 years. Like it had progressed over the years.
Yeah.
But I had to find the right partner as well. And I also had to take more accountability as well. But I reflect back on the past a lot and remembering like what it felt like to have your PO coming over your house anytime you wanted to, having to go to a court, having to like urine tests, having to just always looking over my shoulder 24/7. And now that I don't have that, oh my gosh, I just feel like I'm floating, flying around the world, no worries.
Right.
I've got a great partner, 7 amazing companies, great colleagues, great friends like yourself. And things are just only continuing to get better and better and better. And all the things that we've all heard in our life, just like letting go, take accountability, put your trust in the higher power. Like I used to think that stuff was all foo-foo. And when I started making my transition back in 2018, 2019, I didn't really have any other choices left. I was either going to drink myself and take enough drugs and commit suicide and be successful this time, or I was going to give this accountability and let loose and trust in a higher power like one chance. and I'm so glad that I did. And it's taken like, I say it's a long time since 2019, and everybody else is like, dude, what you've done since 2019 to now is insane. And I'm like,
right.
I was like, I guess on the outside and looking at it, I'm like, yeah,
Yeah.
it's pretty crazy. But just knowing that I get an opportunity to wake up every day and truly feel completely satisfied, wake up with an amazing partner that literally is like the foundation of everything that we do. Currently, it really goes back to that be, do, have. We're being great people, and we're serving. We get to do all the things that we want to do in life, and we'll have all the things that we want to have in life, and turn that around and just keep that kind of going around and be of service to others. And I mean, gosh, it's hard to say because I'm saying like, oh man, if you would have told me life this would have been this good 5 years ago, I'd have changed a long time ago. But the reality is it's not true because I had to go through those lessons.
Yeah.
Right?
You had to connect those dots, right?
And it's just been so phenomenal. And funny enough, like I'm kind of jumping all over the place, but when I did my suicide attempt in 2016, typically they're going to put you somewhere where you need to be for a little while because they're like, yeah, you're got a little stuff going on upstairs, right? And just like you were talking about, like being able to lie to people's face and manipulate them to the very best, I convinced the hospital that I need to leave that day and go back to work. And they're like, oh, okay. It was the last thing I needed to do, right? And so just not having to, or not having the practice of being manipulative, lying to people, more importantly to myself, and having all the opportunities that come my way nowadays. And my only wish is that people that are listening, and you're free to look at my life story. It's very well noted out there. There's definitely a shiz ton of hope for you in whatever it is that you want to do. I was definitely going down the perfect path to really bad failure. I mean, I was on the doorsteps to hell's door in all reality. And when I realized for me that I just needed to kind of get back to where I was with, in which got me to the Olympics, and surrounding myself with influential people, having coaches and mentors in my life, taking 100% accountability, decluttering my architecture. When I say decluttering my architecture, that means the people, places, and things in your life that aren't serving you, even family members. And it's really hard. It's doing the hard things that a lot of people aren't willing to do that's going to help you get to that next level. And then
it's that fear.
Yeah.
I mean, seriously, that's how I see it.
Yeah.
I could be wrong, but it's that fear, because that's what kept me in my toxic marriage for all these, well, I don't want to say all these years.
Yeah.
We've been together 18 years. However, it's probably been the last, even during the 2.5 years of her sobriety, right? It was a lapse here, a lapse there, and then a relapse. Yeah, I kept myself there.
Yeah.
And it was that fear of being my age and going, do I really want to start all over again?
Yeah.
And then I'm like, okay, the next time it happens, I'm done. And then it would happen. And I'm like, okay, I'm done.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden that fear kicks in again, and you're going, man, I don't know, can I put up with this? And then I would allow myself to step right back in that same freaking arena. And then I'm miserable again.
Yeah.
And then I tell myself, okay, the next time would hit. By hell, I'd jump right back in the freaking arena again. Now, This time I finally stuck to my guns, because I really do believe it's time. You said it to me, Bill. I mean, you said it to me a couple times. You're like, you got the wings, brother. Get rid of that ball and chain, right? I'm not saying any disrespect, because you didn't put it in a disrespect way. And because I know that you like Janan, right? And it wasn't anything bad about her. You're just like, get rid of it because it's holding you back.
Yeah.
And you and 2 other close friends of mine said the exact same thing, and none of you guys talked to me.
No.
And I'm like, okay, this ain't a coincidence. It's time that I freaking unlock that bastard and take off, because you said you've been working on yourself since 2019, or changing things. I've been working on myself since 2009, when I lost my job 14 years ago.
Right.
I've come a long way.
Yeah.
And here just, I mean, Curtis Marsh put me in tears a couple of weeks ago. He's like, I've been watching, since he and I met at our little men's group a few years ago, and he goes, I've been watching, I watched how you spoke at the April event, and then I watched how you spoke at the one on October. And he's like, holy shit, you've like just freaking advanced so much. And that made me feel so freaking good, because I've seen a little bit of your journey, right? From the first time you and I met when you came and spoke at the chamber.
Yeah.
And Javine was the chamber president. And you and I end up taking you home one night after a book signing.
Well, let's be
thing
clear.
and all that, right?
You gave me a ride home.
I gave you a ride home. I'm not
Clarify.
taking him home for a date, Thanks for clearing that up. Yeah. So a lot of people would be probably messaging him. What do you mean? What do you mean, guys? But we opened up to one another, right? And I mean, really, we didn't know each other. We just met at a networking event, and you and I really opened up about where we were at in life. And really, I think you and I were pretty much right at the same level at that time.
Yeah.
Right.
And and what I found, with the all the different relations of things that are happening in my life and that have happened, is I also had to realize I had to stop trying to convince other people of what I was trying to do.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm not an alcoholic anymore. I'm getting sober, or I'm not partying anymore. I'm done doing that stuff. And it's the same thing that almost all addicts and all alcoholics do. They say it to try and convince everyone else, and that's their near win for them.
The justification.
The justification. They just keep doing it. And in the same conversation, when I was training for the Olympics, I was telling people way before I was going to make the Olympics. I was telling people in high school, one day I'm going to go to the Olympics. One day I was going to go to the Olympics. But I truly believed that, right? I wasn't just saying it to say it. I truly believed it, and I did stuff every single day, day in and day out, to try and put myself in the best position to make the Olympics. And the same thing in what I'm doing in life now with all my businesses and what I'm doing. I'm a managing partner of 7 companies. By 2030, I want to have $1 billion in my bank account. I want to do this. I want to do this. And I'm not just saying it to say it. I'm actually doing the things day in and day out to actually achieve that.
Oh, yeah.
Right. And that's where we really need to help people understand that, yes, everybody really wants you to get clean, right? Everyone wants you to get sober, but you're doing yourself a disservice by trying to tell everybody, oh yeah, I'm doing this and I'm doing that, if you're not really doing it. If you're not living the lifestyle, then all you're doing is shooting yourself in the foot.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah. So you're fooling yourself.
Yeah.
I had someone say something to me about a week ago that basically said, so I think you're looking for justification because of what I said about talking to 3 close friends and what their thoughts were. And I thought about it, and I'm like, okay, maybe she's right in a way, but also I was doing it. And again, I don't know if this is right or wrong. I was doing it to say, look, I believe I'm growing, but I really don't know 100%. And it's like these 3 people I've trusted. I mean, I trust with everything, and I know they won't steer me wrong, because if I'm not going, they'll say, no, and all 3 of them basically gave me really good compliments, saying, no, you're definitely on your way. You're definitely on your way. I loved that part of the justification. Now, as far as justification, like what we were just talking about, I've done that in my past as well too. And we do that to kind of fool ourselves, thinking that we're doing the right thing. However, if you're not feeling it in here, right, we're not doing the right thing. Because I could feel like I'm growing.
Yeah.
It's like the growing pains. I'm feeling it. I wasn't seeing it. And I needed somebody to say, we see it.
Yeah.
Because it's easier for someone to see you and go, holy shit, man, you freaking changed a lot. And you're like, no, I haven't.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But you have.
Yeah. And again, this all circles right back to accountability.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you and anyone else that gets on the path of recovery and wants to live an aligned life, you have to look back on the process and look back on the journey and say, okay, where was I 6 months ago? How's it different than I am now? Where was I a year ago? Where was I a week? Where was I a day ago?
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
And if the needle is moving, then you're moving in the right direction. And if there's days where the needle doesn't move, it's okay. Right.
Yeah.
And miracles are not going to happen overnight. But as long as you continue to put the work in and day out and be self-disciplined and take that accountability, then you can answer your own questions, right?
Mhm.
And I can look back, but me, I'm extremely transparent with my past. I know that a year ago I was not as a good a space as I am today. I was still in a great space, but now as we go back, 2018, come not even on the same universe. Like where I'm at, like that universe didn't even exist back in 2018,
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But I just like once I got a taste of it and of this life of living in the line life and not being an alcoholic and an addict and making excuses. And once I got a taste of how simple it is, I was like, dude, like I am not gonna stop this. And I've come to realize that the more I just let go of things, people, places, and things that don't serve me, the more things literally just show up on my doorstep.
Well, yeah, because you're not holding yourself back,
Yeah.
right? You're getting rid of the garbage, and not saying that in any kind of pun intended.
Yeah,
But
just-
you're getting rid
yeah.
of the garbage.
Yeah.
Right? Because that's exactly what I've had to do. And you mentioned it here just a little bit ago. Friends and family, it doesn't matter what it is. If it's not serving your purpose,
Yeah.
and I have felt like even with my relationships going on, it's not been serving my purpose. It's been toxic for me.
Yeah.
And I think that's why you said what you said. Cut that chain, man. It's time to cut the umbilical cord so you can go. And so many of us hang on to that.
Yeah.
Because again, that fear.
Well, I mean that, to get like, a little brutal if we want to, it's like show me a person who's held on to that chaos and actually made it work.
Not one.
Right.
Yeah.
Show me one person or organization that held on to the negative garbage and chaos in their life and they found success. Now you may have found some success. Same with my life, right? I did have some success as an Olympian and all this stuff. But back even in 2018 when I started this transformation and I didn't have any other options, it was either I was going to die or I was going to like figure out my own shiz and take some accountability. I was like, okay, I've actually been pretty successful based off of my history growing up, how I grew up. And I was like, and I just, it like sparked my interest. I was like, what would life look like if I didn't have any of these excuses in my life anymore?
Yeah.
What would it look like? And, I don't know if it was an athlete in me or whatever. There is something I definitely do have instilled in my nature, the gift of God, that I really gamify my life. So I'm always challenging myself. So when I told myself, what would my life really look like? I finally created excuses, people, places, and things in my life. And I was like, you know what? Let's go for it and see what happens. And, since 2019, I've been able to grow exponentially like all the time. And I'm living right now of seeing what my life could look like with having no excuses in my life, right?
Yeah.
So, again, just hopefully to encourage people that are listening. These are two people that have been in it, like in one way, shape, or form, and not only once, multiple times.
Multiple times.
I justified it as an athlete because, like, oh, hey, we're athletes, we party, that's what we do. When I had friends back in the day that like, oh, you're an Olympian, you can't take this drug.
Watch me.
I'll show you why I'm an Olympian three times
right.
over, right?
Yeah,
and so, and don't get me wrong, there are still people and places and things that I miss and I love from the past, but that's exactly what it is. It is the past because if I let it creep back into my architecture, I already know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Right. And so the same things like when you get out of jail and the judge says, hey, don't drink or don't offend one more time, and we just go and do it because it's easy and it's comfortable. We already know what's going to happen and we do it anyway. right? It's just
Yeah.
like, okay, when are you going to stop believing all your own bullshit? Right.
Yeah.
And that's, I don't know, I tell people all the time, like, all I hear is like excuses. When are you going to stop believing your own bullshit and actually do the things you need to do to make the changes, not for anyone else, not for your family, not for your kids, not for TV, not for anything, for you,
For you.
period.
Absolutely.
Period.
And it's not selfish.
No, it's not.
So I want our listeners to realize this. This is not selfish
No.
shit at all. Because you can't go out there and you can't help other individuals if you can't even freaking do that for yourself.
No.
At all, right? So if you take some selfishness and go, you know what, I'm going to be the best freaking man or woman that I can possibly be, and I'm going to continue to work and grow on my and grow as an individual. I'm going to get rid of the trash. I'm going to bring people in my life who inspire me, who want to see the best for me. You start doing that for other individuals without you even realizing.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you think about it, when you're an alcoholic and an addict, you're already being selfish.
Yeah.
So why not flip that?
Why not flip
it? Right?
Absolutely.
Flip it for something that's actually going to benefit you. And then you can become, it's like the be do have, you can become this amazing person that has a shit ton of learning lessons because you've been in the trenches for so long. You've experienced the worst and the hardest of shit in life. But now you've become this person because you're focusing on you. You call it being selfish, whatever you want. Then I am a selfish son of a. But you could eventually become that person that then could sit in this seat and talk to thousands of people out there, tell them your story, give them a light of hope as well, right?
Yeah.
And that, for me, that's the same thing, right? Yes, I was selfish, but I had to be. And now, because I was selfish and put it in process and practiced it, I am now like probably the least selfish person. Kirsten and I, my wife, for those of you who don't know, Kirsten, she's a nurse, and it is what it is. I'm not saying this to throw it in anyone's face, but we are gonna have a lot of money, and I'm like, we don't need all that. Like, what are we gonna do with it? And we're just like, okay, how many different organizations and people and groups can we help out around the world?
Absolutely,
right?
yeah.
And it's I've always had dreams of being able to be in this spot, but I was like, man, it's way too big of a dream. Yeah. There's no way I can do that, right? Self-limiting beliefs again. Too big, too monumental, too grandiose. And now we're like literally right there right now. And I've told you that like one of my companies is possibly moving us to Hermosa Beach and Oahu, and we're building 10 recreation centers around the world. I'm working with the NFL Alumni Association to build 44 stadiums around the world, and all from a scrubby little kid who had a crackhead mom, prostitute, that was never supposed to achieve anything. I was supposed to be dead by the time I was 16, and now I have an opportunity to have a global impact in a positive way. Right? Yeah. It's not supposed to happen to you and I, everyone listening.
Yeah, why not?
But I decided to take accountability and figure out what could I create in my life.
And I love that you look at it that way, Bill, you and your wife, because I've always had a dream, and this is tiny, right?
Yeah.
However, it's always been a dream of mine. Drive down the road during the summer and you see little kids out there selling lemonade, 25 cents or $1. One day, I'm going to drive up to one of these lemonade stands and I'm going to buy a cup of lemonade for $100 bill. And I'm going to give them $100 bill, right? Because I can.
Yeah.
And it's because I want to.
Yeah.
Knowing the thrill that they would have. And if there's two of them, give them each $100.
Right.
Buy 2 cups, one from each person, And I've heard people say throughout my life, and even recently, someone said this at an event I was at, and they're like, yeah, I have an issue with money because it is the root of all evil. Look at the greed that's happening on in the world, and look at people that are doing this with it, and they're using it for negative stuff. And I looked at this person and I said, you're looking at it in the wrong way. I says, you're looking at it is the root of all evil because that's what it's being used for. There are people who make a shitload of money who are using it for good things.
Yeah.
Right? They're donating it to kids who are less fortunate. They're donating it to single moms. They're donating it to our military who have lost limbs from protecting us. There's so many different ways. So you're just using that as an excuse why you don't ever want to be rich because it's the root of all evil. Because who says you're going to become that?
Yeah.
You're not. It's how it. It's how you perceive it
Yeah,
up here.
it's 100%, right? And our team right now with TMIC Global, we're talking about we're studying Charles Haanel's book, The Master Key System, and we're in the early study phase of it, and it talks about the subconscious and the conscious, right? And it's whatever our conscious allows in, the subconscious is going to believe, right? So in that case, this guy's allowing the conscious mind to say, hey, money is the root of all evil. We all know that's not really true. Can it be? Yes, but anything also can be. But we can choose to put a change on it and say, you know what, money is for good, and this is how it is for good. And it's all about, like, again, back to the accountability side, and stop believing in all your own bullshit. He could change that mindset anytime he wanted to.
Yeah, unplug the bad neuron and
100%.
plug it into a new one.
Right. And it's a choice, and he's choosing to live in that space where he's saying, oh, money is the root of all evil, right? But can you say that to Al, who every week goes and finds a lemonade stand and gives these kids $100? So, okay, what's evil about that?
Yeah, absolutely. Right? Yeah.
Or when we go down to the homeless shelter and donate money or resources to the homeless shelter,
or even your time.
What's bad about that, right?
Yeah.
Is money used for evil stuff? Yeah, absolutely, every single day. But that's a choice on those people who do it.
Yeah. Like Bill's saying, with the accountability, and visualize this stuff. I remember reading Rich Dad Poor Dad, Robert Kiyosaki's book. And when he come up with $500 to take this real estate class. Didn't have the money, but he come up with it, went to the real estate class. And he's been very successful. Look who he is now, right? Guy makes millions and millions of dollars. And he said every person that was in that class could have been doing the same damn thing he did. Yeah. The only issue was they did not follow the instructions that was there, because their subconscious mind says, oh, you can't do this.
Yep.
Right? You'll never make it. Now, our subconscious mind, I don't know if you guys know this, it's there to protect us. It doesn't know what's real, and it doesn't know what's a lie.
It believes whatever the conscious mind tells
whatever the conscious mind, it has no idea. Bill just said it. It really is that simple. Not saying it is simple, because you've been programmed for so long. It takes some time to start reprogramming yourself. But it is as simple as unplugging that son of a bitch, plugging it into something healthy, and start going and believing, right? So again, I was told the other day, I'm 60 and I live in a trailer. No lie. I'm 60, I live in a trailer. I don't have a house. I don't live in an apartment. I'm living in a 32-foot camping trailer. They're looking at it, I believe, as this is who I am going to be, right? Because I was compared to two other people. Well, this is what happened to them, the exact same thing, and they're still there. And I didn't think of it at the time when it was being told to me.
Yeah.
And I've really had the last week or so to really start, I'm just going to say, contemplating my navel and really thinking about this. And I'm going, okay, I see their point in a way. However, they're looking past, and I'm not saying this to toot my own horn. They're looking past who I am as an individual. They're seeing the other two individuals, and they're adding me in with it. I'm someone totally different, because do you think I want to live in a freaking trailer for the rest of my life? Hell no. Hell no.
But living in a 32-foot trailer is literally the luxury of life for some people.
It is.
Even if they have the means to do
it.
A 32,000 square foot home, right? Is like having, it's their story. This is your story.
This is my story.
This is not the other two people's story, or the person who told you this. This is your story, right?
Yep.
If I lived my life comparing it to everyone else, I would be a failure 100% of the time, because you can't keep up with everyone else's life story. But what I can keep up on, and what I can manage, and what I can pull a pen out and write the story of, is my story.
Absolutely.
Period.
I got this blank page and this pen.
Right.
I'm getting ready to start a new chapter in my life. I can tell myself what I want in that chapter.
And who you want.
And who I want in that chapter, right? Yeah, because I was told that too when I first did my first public speaking. And I don't know, maybe somebody has said something to you as well. Like, when you do public speaking, you need to dress nicer. And
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
like, why? I'm Al Richards. You know what's nice to me? Jeans like this, possibly a t-shirt, maybe a sports jacket,
Yeah.
my nice cowboy boots. I'm confident. I'm Al Richards. I'm not Tony Robbins. I'm not Les Brown. I'm not Brene Brown.
Yeah.
I'm Al Richards.
I had a doctor actually, doctor I had an opportunity to coach this weekend of Jack Canfield thing. And he's showing me some pictures and he's all dressed up in a suit. And he's like, oh, I freaking hate those suits. And I'm like, why do you wear them? Someone told me I need to wear a suit. Okay, why? And he tried to give me an explanation. I said, well, what are you comfortable in? When you tell your story, what makes you really vibrate and shine? He's like, jeans and a t-shirt. And I was like, okay, so I'm wearing jeans and a t-shirt. This is your story. This is not the 20 people or the 10,000 people in the crowd. They're not going to look at you and be like, oh no,
yeah, I'm not going to
he's
listen to him.
not wearing a suit, right?
Yeah.
Like how many, and not that we need to base this off the wealthiest of people or the most influential people, but how many wealthy, successful, influential human beings do you say day in and day out that just wear general regular clothes? Post Malone.
Yeah.
Guy wears whatever he wants, tattoos himself. That's his story, right? So why are we comparing ourselves with somebody else's book that we're not even in their book inside of another chapter or anything?
Yeah, you're not
right?
a part of it. Yeah. I had Erin Mendenhall, Salt Lake
Yeah.
City mayor, right? She came on my show as a guest. She comes in, she's got her security, and everybody comes in, checks out the place before she can even walk in. And I'm expecting her to come walking in, all dressed business lady suit and all this stuff. She comes walking in with a pair of Converse tennis shoes.
Right.
And I think she had a decent, nice glass on, jeans.
Yeah.
And I was like, this chick's down to earth.
Yeah.
Right? I mean,
Yeah.
seriously. And then the gentleman I used to work for, Dan Hewish.
Mm-hmm.
When I was at Bowling Green, they would come in, and Richard Watson, who's the guy that helped transfer me to Bowling Green, they're all in these three-piece suits, right? Real fancy suits. I mean, the suits are probably worth $3,000-4,000. People are coming in, they're checking out our packaging area. Here comes this guy with his hands behind him, just walking along, ball cap, flannel shirt, Levi's, penny loafers. Come up, hey Al, how's things going? I'd give him the rundown. Thanks. He'd go off. Everybody would come up. Which one's Dan? Which one's Dan? Because they know he's here. He's the owner, right? Which one is he? Is it him? Is it him? And I'm like, no, that's not him. Well, who is it? I said, you see the guy in the ball cap?
Yeah.
They're like, no way. I'm like, that guy's worth billions of dollars, and he's walking around in a freaking ball cap. He's letting his people take care of whatever. He's who he is.
Yeah.
Right? It doesn't matter to him. He doesn't have to put on a facade, which so many of us do.
Yeah.
We're pretending to be somebody that we're not, and all you're doing is hurting yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, in all my companies, none of us, even to our board meetings, none of us wear suits. Right. And I'm saying that's what works for us. Right. If you're part of an organization where they like you to wear suits, great. You know what? If you're not comfortable in, ask, hey, can I just come in a nice shirt and jeans? That's what I'm comfortable in. But again, it's, goes back to like, live your life, live your story.
Yeah.
And do what you need to do that works for you, and just be accountable to yourself.
I love it. It is so huge. I think when we do start taking accountability for our lives, I mean, you said it quite a few times throughout the show, Bill. We start seeing so many incredible things start happening. I mean, we really do. It changes us. The right people start coming into our life. There's no phony shit. I mean, I love that you are so open with your life. Now that I've shared my story since January, I am just like 100% wide open with it, and sometimes telling the truth and how I see things or how I feel or what's being said has come back and hurt me. Right. And again, I think it's being looked past. It's being looked past because if they're not seeing who you truly are, I believe they're still looking in their own past and things that have happened, right? You told me something once, Bill, it really stuck with me. I sat down with you and Brett at the Bear restaurant.
Brett's favorite
Yeah,
Black Bear
Black
Diner.
Bear Diner.
Yeah.
So I sit down with you guys and we have a chat. And you were saying, you know what I did, Al? I got rid of everything. I just wanted to rebuild myself and start all over. And that was probably maybe 4 years ago. Because it was that time I was just starting to think about doing a show.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm coming up on 3 years with the show. Believe it or not, it's unbelievable, right? So it was a little over 3 years ago. When our lease got up in June, and I knew they were going to jack the damn rent up another $500, not wanting to do it, knowing I couldn't do it because of just where I'm at financially. That popped in my head so many times. And I don't think I've ever told you this. I'm like, I remember Bill saying how he just got rid of everything. And the more I started thinking about it, I went, you know what? Hell yeah, that's exactly what I'm going to do, right? Yeah. I'm going to do this. I have had in 18 years of my relationship with my wife, I have always had more clothes than she has, right? I went through my freaking closet leaving, and I'm like, Savers. This one, I'll wear it someday. And I'm like, I've been saying that for the past 5 years. Savers, right? I now have all my clothes on one little teeny thing.
Yeah.
So if you see me wearing the same shit all the time,
who cares?
That's okay, because this is I got rid of our couches. You know, again, I live in a trailer. It's like I'm rebuilding. You talked about it at the very first part of the show. I have just not tore down the old building. I've gone over to a new piece of land. I've dug the pit. I've poured a fresh foundation, and now I'm putting my freaking floor on. I'm putting my walls up,
right?
And it's taken some time, and it's going to take a little bit of time. And there'll be some days I'll accomplish more than I do other days, right? But that, again, thank you for saying that, because it stuck with me so hard and so strong. It hit me upside the head like a 2x4. And it's been good for me, right? Because I'm like, all this old shit it's gone. It's out of my life. I don't need it. I don't need it.
Right.
You know, and you said it also. There are people who are very, very wealthy and still live in a trailer or live in a little teeny tiny shack. You know, when I lived in Bowling Green, Kentucky, there's this guy going around. We were at Red Lobster once in Bowling Green, and he's going around. He's this short little guy with long hair, and he's talking to everybody. And he stops by our table and he's talking. And I'm like, who the hell is this guy? And he's freaking talking to everyone. And our waiter comes over, and I'm like, who is that dude? And he goes, oh, you don't know him? I'm like, no, that's why I'm asking you. He goes, he is the drummer for the Nitty Gritty Dirt Band. I'm like, oh,
yeah.
And he goes, this guy's worth millions. And he goes, he comes into Bowling Green every once in a while and eats, and always goes around and says hi to people, even if they don't know who he is. He's saying hi. And he goes, yeah, he lives about 30 miles outside of Bowling Green. He's explaining where. And I says, oh my gosh, I bet you can't miss his house, right? It's probably huge. And he goes, no.
Yeah.
He says, have you ever seen like Deliverance when they're sitting on the porch playing the banjo? And he's like, that's the type of house he has. And I'm like, you gotta be shitting me.
Yeah.
He was comfortable with it.
Yep.
You know, he's good with it. It doesn't determine on who he is as an individual.
Right.
He's taken accountability for his life. He's good. He's comfortable. That's all that matters.
And that's, he's writing his own story.
He's writing his story.
You know, so much of society gets caught up, and you see it all the time on social media, and it literally makes me sick to my stomach. Get caught up in like competing with the Joneses, right? And you see people on there, coaches and so-called influencers at all these events and partying and making fake videos with nice cars and all this stuff. And then everyone thinks that that's what they need to do, and that's what defines success. And that has nothing to do with success. Just because you have all the money and things in the world doesn't mean you're successful, right? You know, we've all seen it. So many successful people, quote unquote, they're absolutely miserable because they haven't done the work.
Absolutely.
You know, great example is people who randomly win the lottery. they lose that money like not too long after that because they haven't done the
Usually
work.
within about 2
right?
years, they're broke.
Yeah, they're trying to keep up with the people who actually are wealthy,
Yeah.
right? And just doing that stuff, and they're not taking accountability for who they are at that point in time and being smart. And so they end up right back in the same place they were when they began. So yeah.
I love it. Man, this has been a great topic.
Oh, dude.
Bill, thank you so much
Yeah.
for taking time out of your day to be with us. You know, two last questions. You can answer one or both.
Okay.
What do you want our listeners to gain from today's show?
Okay.
Second one, what would be your main message to them?
So it's going to be kind of honestly all in the same. You know, you've heard me say my quote, and I live and die by this quote on a daily basis. You know, the reality is, you know, here's the quote: "Dreams are only dreams until we take the actions to ignite them." So, what actions are you willing to take today to change your tomorrow? And with that said, I want to challenge you all, like everyone listening, I don't care where your life is right now, is what things in your life right now are you not taking action on that could actually benefit your life from here on down the road? You know, the show is called the other side, the other side of addiction, right? This is what the other side of addiction looks like. And you, just as well as anyone else, belongs here to create as much success in your life as you want.
Yeah.
But again, it has to do with taking some action, taking some accountability, and moving the needle forward.
Yeah, and definitely, and Bill said it too. You know, if it doesn't move forward, it's okay. You know, it doesn't matter how big the steps are. Even if you're just a tiny, tiny step, as long as it's forward, that's all it takes.
Yeah.
I mean, seriously, that's all it takes. This podcast started because of one little teeny tiny step. Our Healing Utah Success Summit started because of one little step. And the fear of just who gives a shit, what's going to happen, let's just freaking do it, right? And we'll learn along the way.
Dude, I mean, you know, my whole life I was told I was never going to achieve anything. You can never make the Olympics. You can never have a healthy relationship. You can never own a business. You can never be a multimillionaire / billionaire. And I'm just like, wow, if I would have lived my life like that, you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have all these things.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't be the person I am today, right? So again, you know, whatever you guys want to create, just take that accountability and find the people, places, and things that are going to serve you and the things that you need in life, and don't be afraid to take that leap.
I love it. Great advice. Bill, again, thank you, man.
Thanks, brother.
Really appreciate it. Thank you to all our guests, all our listeners, all our sponsors. Guys, again, this would not be possible if it wasn't for you. This show's coming up on 3 years. It'll be March. Actually, April is when we launched our first one, but it's coming right around the corner. 220 plus episodes.
Wow.
It's because of you guys. All this is a platform for our people to come on and share a story, use their voice to make a difference in the world, and that's what it's all about. Remember this: addiction is giving up everything for one thing, and recovery is giving up one thing for everything. We're out. Now I got to move forward and shut everything down. This is not professional, people, but it's all right.